Sandy Ames is an old friend of mine who is one of the most remarkable women I've ever met. She's deeply spiritual. She is multi-talented. When I first met her in the voiceover world in New York City, she was my favorite DJ on WPLJ in New York City. And now she is doing amazing things with her hypnotherapy at the Sandy Ames Hypnotherapy Clinic on the Upper West Side of New York City. I am so happy to have her here. So, as promised, I have my dear Sandy Ames here. Sandy, thank you so much for joining us here on Heal the Division.
It is my pleasure, but like guilty pleasure, because I get to spend time with you, Tracy.
I know, and I miss you too. I miss you, and we're going to fix that. We are going to definitely fix that. So as I was saying to you earlier, I think I said this on another episode, I was going through so much angst. I think a lot of people are. I'm sure you deal with many of them in your hypnotherapy practice. With regard to what's going on this little blue marble that we all inhabit right now. It's treacherous, it's stressful. We worry for our children. I know I do on a daily basis. I'm sure you do. And in order to alleviate this stress and strain in my own being, I have to do something about it. I write plays about racism and homophobia and all sorts of things, but I wanted to take a different avenue. So the avenue that I decided to take was do a podcast called Heal the Division and try to talk to different people about their version of what that might mean. And I can't think of a better person to talk to than you, you are one of the most spiritual people I've ever met, one of the most down-to-earth, wonderful beings that I've ever met. And I appreciate that about you. So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts based on what you've said just now about this rock that's just flying through space, and that's all that's really going on here, the marble you called it. You said so confidently, so as if it is stressful. Of course, this is what we are all dealing with, whichever side you're on, mm-hmm. or above either side or below.
Right, right.
Right. As if it is definitely for sure stressful for us, wouldn't we all agree? And just before I'm seeing you, I had a client here in my office. We were working through communication techniques and how to do this breakup.
Oh.
Okay. Well, first it was, should we break up? And a few weeks ago, I said, you're not allowed. Now, of course, she's allowed, right? But I said, do me a favor. We're doing this work and a lot is going to change for you. Mm-hmm. Don't do it yet. Because even if it's ultimately where we go with this, you are going to drastically evolve in the next few weeks, and how you communicate it both to him and within your own inner self-talk is going to massively impact who you become as you move forward. And so she agreed and she stayed with this, and we've been working on communication. So today was the day she came to the conclusion, okay, I'm going to break up with him. I said, great. But do you realize that everything you're saying about it is different than week one? Because week one, you started talking about all the things that were wrong, all the things you could see in the future that wouldn't be right with this guy, and wrong. So you could earn enough points to get the free ticket to get out. We all have that habit, don't we? We try to find what's wrong. We talk about what's stressful. We try to find what's wrong. You'll see how we're bringing this all together in just a second. So I said, and now what I'm hearing you say is, who I've become through this process of life and even this relationship and beyond this relationship, who I've become is on a path of seeing this new dream, of seeing this new wish for myself. And in my aligned state, the world I desire for myself feels like this, looks like this, smells like this. And I said, so you don't need to keep looking for what's wrong with this guy. You just need to keep finding what's right about who you've become because of this process. And now
that's in your app, one of your apps about relationships that I fell asleep to last night, which was so good. Really, I had the best night's sleep. Anyway, go ahead, not to interrupt, but I did.
Makes me so happy. All right, so now we do the role play because she's practicing with me how she's going to break up with him. Okay, let me be really clear. I did not suggest she break up nor stay.
Mhm.
I suggested she just put a pause on making any decisions until more clarity became apparent. And it's interesting because as she's become more clear, she said, the weirdest thing happened to me this week. I quit coffee. And I said, well, that didn't come from me. I drink coffee all day. I said,
Right.
what occurs is when we start basking in new higher vibrational emotions, this is all scientifically measurable.
Mhm.
When we are in a positive emotion, we're 30% more intelligent.
Wow, that's amazing.
When you really open that statistic up and look at it, it's not that we get smarter because we're happy. It's really because when we're in a negative emotion, we get dumber. Now, we don't actually get dumber, but it blocks access to
Sure,
clarity.
we close down, yeah.
Okay, even your electromagnetic field shrinks in negative emotion. Okay, so what we did in session today, an hour ago, was I said, look, when you look at the definition of abundance, it's not having all the stuff. If you ate all the food today, there would be nothing enjoyable about eating all the food today. Abundance is having what you need when you need it. And when you look at true abundance, if the abundance of that higher vibrational positive emotion, which means just staying aligned in what it is you want, abundance is you don't have to memorize a script when you break up with that guy. Abundance is you're basking so steadfastly in what it is you choose to feel, and that's up to you.
Right, right.
And the words flow. Because now we're going to get really out there with this, but this is all science. Your brain doesn't hold memories. It can't. What it holds is emotion. And in fact, we cannot remember information without an emotional association with it. Let me say it differently. The higher the emotion, the better we remember something.
Wow. So the
Go
more
ahead.
emotional adventures or events in our lives are the ones that we remember because of the heightened emotion.
Whether it's a good emotion or a bad emotion.
Right,
So that,
negative or positive. Yeah.
so that should explain PTSD. The emotion was so instant, so shocking, in this case, negative, if it's PTSD, we can't stop thinking about it.
Right, right.
When we have new love, the good emotion is so good, we can't stop thinking about him or her, you see? And that's why children learn through song. The information gets encoded through emotion. So remember, your brain does not hold a memory. It holds a vibrational pattern associated with an emotion, and that secretes a chemical. Those chemicals inform ideas and impulses. So if you want to make, I'm talking fast, but if you want to make behavior change, which is what this podcast seeks to do, doesn't it?
Absolutely, 100%.
If you want to,
For everybody, for everybody.
if you want to make behavior
Communication.
change, it comes down to training certain emotions associated with people, with information, with topics. It's training the emotional response, which secretes chemicals, which gives us impulses to new behaviors. So when you look at my client who quit drinking coffee, well, her intuition, her higher mind understood that for whatever reason, she needs to be more clear. And she's following new impulses. They're coming because she's having better feeling emotions and she's being guided differently. So now let's break this down to how we use this in real life. I started by pointing out, hey, Tracy, you said as a given, we all feel this same stress. Now, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But when my client practiced the script, we learned the script and then we threw the script away, the script on how to break up, where it was not you did this wrong and you're not right for me for this, or not even self-deprecation, but instead, look, it's clear that we're going to end this relationship. And if I've gotten in your way at all by asking you to be differently, by asking you to fit into my square peg round hole kind of thing,
right,
you deserve better than that. You deserve to have everything you want the way you want it. And I've been asking you to do these things for me because I'm wanting something that keeps pulling you off your own center, and that's not fair to you. Also, I'm evolving, I'm changing, my desires are developing in a new way. And I want to go in a direction where it just feels easy. I want it all, and I think you should have it too. And by the way, these three things I remember from our relationship and about you, they were the greatest ever. This hasn't been wasted time. You see, so we practiced that, leaving only with love, completely authentic, no ass kissing, none of that, honest love, compassion. And that's the abundance.
True that. What if the other party is doing something that harms you regardless of how you go your separate ways, etc.? And I don't mean in a one-on-one relationship necessarily. I mean, as we're talking about groups of people and sides, if you will.
That is the best question perfectly placed in this conversation. Because now, Tracy, you're going to remember that who you really are is not attached to an outcome. Regardless, let's say he kicks and screams and throws a tantrum, it will only ignite the compassion in her. And she will see a man who hasn't yet learned to communicate, who still loves her and doesn't know how to express properly. And therefore, he just doesn't fit who she's become. And she can love him through that. She doesn't have to take away his pain. She doesn't have to cheer him up. She can just be in a loving space so it can never affect her. When you become, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, what are you thinking? I want to hear what your eyes just did.
I so understand that in a one-on-one personal relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how groups of people or politicians or different, varied segments of society can do things and demand from the other segments to do the same, because that is harm. That is not something you can just walk away from. I can't just walk away from the fact that Roe v. Wade was overturned and I'm terrified for young women. I can't just walk away from some of these things that have happened in this country over the past even few years, not just decade or so. How does that work?
This is such a powerful and poignant topic. I want to put it right here because we have to pick it up. Let's finish the other piece and then we're going to pick this up and take that. Yeah. All right.
Super.
Back to the conversation. So after we practiced the script, knowing we were going to throw it away, here's how I'm going to lovingly leave this relationship as we've known it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Honest, authentic, no BS, and nothing condescending. I wish you well. Clear. Right. Okay. We practiced it first with a script so she could feel for it. Okay. And I asked her, as she went through take 2 and take 3 and then got rid of the script and then just spoke authentically. That's how you do it with scripts, isn't it? Like you sort of get the script in your head.
Absolutely. Of course. I'm doing one later this afternoon for an audition. That's exactly how it works. You
turn it over and tell the story of it. And you're surprised how many of the words just come up because it matches, right? Okay, so same idea. So now she gets to this point and the tears in her eyes and her whole face changed and her aura was new. I said, right now, right in the middle of this, right here, what do you feel? Where do you feel it? And she said, I feel in my belly, in my gut, I feel this awful feeling. And what's the color? The color is like blue, green, uncomfortable. I said, okay, that's happening, but that's not actually what I was going for. So keep that because that's real and it's happening. I said, but what else are you feeling right now? Because I saw this authenticity coming through her and the words just flowed. And she's like, well, I feel like this, like something's wrapped around my shoulders and hugging me and it's like pink light. I said, yes, that is it. What is it? Peace is right. And so she was talking about this peace, this comfort, this knowing. I said, that and the blue yucky belly thing are happening at the same time.
Right.
If you allow your focus to just be in that heart glowing space, the being held and the holding, that pink love, light, whatever your words may be for that, that's what informs the words. She first went directly to the pain. I said, that feeling will be there and it'll flow through because the more you breathe into those lungs, it's going to massage those organs and it's just going to flow through. You don't have to look at it. It will clear itself. Allow that light to be what informs everything you say. So if that's the light of peace, just be in that peace. The words will flow. So this brings it all back to where we started, when I really just, it stood out to me when you said we're all stressed, aren't we? Well, maybe we all do have that yucky blue-green thing in our belly. Maybe we all have it. And still, why would we only point at that and ignore all of the love and the peace that's currently occurring? Because that's there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's there too.
It is, you're absolutely right. It is there every day in every way. I see it all the time. Little simple joyous things from people that I don't even know, which is wonderful.
That's there too. But people say, but the ugly thing is true. And we say, so who said the law is to only point at the ugly thing?
Right, right.
What if you allow, because focus is our tool of creation. What if you allow your own relationship with your inner being to be what guides you? Because I've heard some of your podcasts. I'm so proud of you. I love this conversation. And Sophie B. Hawkins, she only talked in the podcast, but you can hear her singing when she speaks because she's pure emotion.
Absolutely.
She's beauty, right? It was nice to listen to her too. Here's something that came to mind. You're talking about healing the division. If I were to picture someone from, you be so careful with how you say things, because I want only the pure message to come through and nobody to be insulted.
Right, right.
If you picture those people that you and I both know from our lives who are like, if we could only ungay you.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
I think we're too old for that, but yeah.
They mean it.
They do.
They mean it.
And they love us.
And they love us. And my mom, when I first, it's funny, people say, tell me your coming out story. I was never in.
I know. I'm like, so yeah, right.
I just one day discovered like, oh, this is like delicious. Have you tried this flavor, you guys?
Right.
And I like this better.
It's embedded in your being for me from a very young age. I know that.
Yeah, no, I was 25 when I figured it out. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know I could be that. I didn't know, it just didn't exist in my world. And so I was 25 and I called my mom and I was like, Mom, oh my God, the greatest thing just happened. and I told her, and I was like, I just thought that I didn't like kissing, but I just didn't like kissing guys.
But I really like kissing women, right?
Oh my God. So I thought she would be just as happy for me as I was.
Right.
I didn't think there was no consideration of anything other than this is the best.
Right.
And my mom takes this pause, and my mom's an amazing person. She's like Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And she pauses and she goes, I'll call you back.
I'll call you back.
So this is all leading to how we heal this division. Okay, so now my mom calls me back and she says, oh, good news. I just called my friend Michael. He's gay. He said he knew from the time he was 13, just like Tracy. And good news, you're 25. It's just a phase. Thank God.
Yeah, just a phase, Mom.
And I said, no, no, like I know. And right. She said, well, I'm just disappointed is all. I'm just disappointed. And this was way back before I was ever a hypnotherapist. I had, none of this kind of training. But I said at the time, I said, Mom, so many people go to therapy their whole lives because they're afraid they've disappointed their parents. You just flat out told me you're disappointed in me. And I want you to know I love you so much, no matter what. And what I'm really hearing from you is that you got to just sort this out, and I will be by your side the whole time.
Excellent. Perfect. Yeah.
It took no time until then I broke up with Mary, and she's like, why don't you break up with Mary? She's the best thing you ever find. Right. So, right. So So many people come from that. Now, my mom is the same one. When I gave her this riddle, maybe you've heard this riddle, Tracy. A father and son are driving in a car. They get in an accident. So the father and son are taken to the hospital, and the doctor comes out, looks at the boy, the kid, and says, I can't do surgery on this boy. That's my son. That's the riddle. So I did it with my mom. I said, how is that possible? Do you know, have you heard that one?
I've not, no.
All right. So there you go. Answer the riddle. The doctor comes out. I can't do surgery on the boy. That's my son. How is that possible?
Well, there are many ways to unpeel this onion. I mean, just because a father and a son are in a car doesn't mean that they're the father and the son.
They're the father and the son.
They are. Okay, yeah. Solve it. I'm terrible at riddles.
Remember, Tracy, when you started this podcast as a liberal?
Yes.
The doctor is his mother.
Oh, thank you. That was a terrible assumption on my part.
Tracy, it is not your fault.
You did not say the doctor walked in and he said, you did not say that. You're right.
If I did, then that comes from my own subconscious programming. Maybe I did.
No, I don't think you did. I'm going to go back. I'll watch this, but no, I think you said, and the doctor walks in and said, I cannot do surgery on this child. This child is my son. You didn't say he walked in.
Oh, maybe I did, because it would.
I don't think so.
And if I did, I apologize. But here's the point. Here's the point. My mother also couldn't figure it out. Okay, stepfather, blah blah blah. Right? It's not your fault. Your original programming, to which you had no defense until you were 8 years old,
the doctor
got in, and unless or until it gets changed, and it's not easy to. It's easy to change when you know how, but it's not. And people go to therapy their whole lives; it still doesn't change. I want to quit smoking. I love smoking. I want to quit smoking. I love smoking. You can't change. Okay, so yes, there are ways to change it. Hypnotherapy is one of the most powerful, quickest, deepest ways to change it. But you can do it without hypnotherapy too, okay? But because that was your original programming, it's just what's in there. It doesn't make you a non-feminist. It doesn't make you against women's rights.
True that, yes.
Programmed that way.
Programmed that way, yes, but I'm not programmed to cause harm to somebody because of their sexuality or their color or their religion. And there are people out there who do just that. Do you know what I'm saying? My programming may have been, but I don't think of myself that way, but I certainly don't think, who knows why I'm terrible at riddles, but clearly, but
here's the thing.
We're programmed that way, but we also have choices. We have choices.
So when this is
to not spray paint a swastika on someone's garage door.
Yes.
So or to not drag a gay young man behind a pickup truck in Texas because he's gay.
So when someone like you, who is well educated and you have a good heart and a conscience, when you recognize your own expired limiting beliefs, you have a choice. And the only way we can have movement and take inspired action upon that impulse to choose is only if we feel safe. Because when we don't feel safe, we don't have access to choice. Freedom is choice. Choice is creativity. That chemically gets blocked when we're in the part of our brain that has that old belief programming. Literally, there's a wall that blocks you from knowing that you have a choice. People are only afraid if they believe someone else is choosing for them. You, Tracy, you and everyone are only afraid of this country, this world right now, because part of you believes that somebody else has power over you and you're scared that they're going to make the wrong choice.
Well, on a global scale, that's for sure.
Okay, so we can only make choice when we understand that choice is available to us. And we only can be in that position if we are out of the state of fear, if we're out of fight or flight.
The fight or flight part of the theory of mind, right?
So we have to feel safe before the next piece can occur. So as a change maker, unless or until we can, number one, step one, hold a safe space, we cannot go any further. So when I brought up the people who want to ungay us, right?
Right.
It's okay that I called you gay.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. If they were to be having a similar
Nothing's changed, Sandy. Nothing's changed.
yeah, thank God.
I would have called you and you would have said, hold on, let me call you back. I just talked to Michael. You'll grow out of it.
All right. Anyway, imagine two people educated as well as we are, but you and I are on the left. So say people from the right had a similar podcast and they said, look, we're Republicans and we're good people with a good conscience. And we'd like to see everyone get along. We want to understand our.
It would be lovely. That's like the dinner party that Sophie and I want to have.
I understand. With understanding this is a pretend scenario, not real, so we're not going to get upset.
Okay.
We're going to look at it from a distance with understanding. Those two people might say, look at Tracy and Sandy. There's so much potential for them. I know they have good hearts. I know they've already done good things in the world, even though they believe things that are ridiculous, they would say. Because they're worth it, and because love and connection are worth it, why don't we find new and creative ways to ungay them? Because if we're being fair, when I talk to my liberal friends, and I definitely fall on the liberal side, okay? When I talk to most of my liberal friends, or I listen to these conversations about healing divisions, healing divides, often it's, let's find a new way to make them be like us.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, you're right. That is usually the route that people take. But as Kate and I discussed in one of them, you know, that's not. You're absolutely right. That's not the way to go.
It's not, because
it's not about, hey, you need to come over to my side because my side is right. That's not where we're landing here. You know, I mean, there are very specific things that are atrocious, that are inexcusable. You can't wrap a pink light around some of that stuff, Sand. You can't.
Back a few years ago, it was an audition and it went nowhere, but WOR, which is right leaning. And by the way, I do the voice for WOR and I'm happy to do it. The voiceover.
Oh, great.
Yeah, happy to do it. Happy they exist. Why wouldn't I want all sides to be represented? I think it's fantastic. Okay. I've met Sean Hannity and we were like besties. It was amazing. We didn't talk politics. We talked candy and country music. And it was lovely. And his eyes are beautiful. The things he says and does are mind-boggling to me.
Yes, they are. I have difficulty watching him sometimes. I'm sure his eyes are lovely, and I bet in a professional setting or in a work setting that, you know, he's able to do that. But some of the things he says change minds.
With him, it's this blue stomach and the pink shoulders all at the same time, and I think the stomach bloats a little in those situations. Okay. But so a few years ago, they asked me to audition for a brand new show they were doing with Joe Concha. Joe writes for The Hill and he, I believe, votes conservative. And he's on Fox News. So they asked us to come together and I was auditioning to do the show with him. Ultimately, it was not the right matchup and they chose somebody else to be his partner. I didn't want to do it anyway. It was fine. But I loved him so much. And we did a few auditions because it was like sort of close. We were like, oh, maybe this is going to be the pairing. And then it wasn't. And so in those shows we did that never aired, he would state his perspective from the right. And I was supposed to represent the left. And I would look at him and I would listen to him and I'd be like, I understand you. I understand you and I don't even dislike you. In fact, I like you. I would approach it differently, but I certainly understand you and we're good, you know?
Exactly. Those are the kinds of conversations that need to be had. They need to be had by willing partners on both, as we call them, sides.
Yeah. So we're
And
not,
I am a firm believer that the Republican Party of my grandfather's Republican Party is no longer in existence.
right.
He would be appalled at what's happening right now. So I understand exactly what you're saying about that. But both parties need to come to the proverbial table in order to facilitate that conversation. And there are some out there who will not. There are some, I shall not name names right now, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, in Washington, who are causing not just ruckus on the House floor, they are causing changes for our children's future that may be irrevocable.
So let's practice that change, because we're not doing all the people at once. Let's just start with one-on-one. Okay, let's
Yes,
practice.
absolutely.
We'll do it right now. So picture, because this is a real conversation that occurred. Picture being with my Republican father at a diner in New Jersey for your semi-yearly we're hanging out moment. And he talks all about, oh my God, and with the transgender, there's going to be rape in the bathrooms. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Like, and my dad's a smart guy.
Yeah, I'm sure. You have to be.
Nonstop. Yeah. Rape in the bathrooms. The transgenders. Rape in the bathrooms. Okay. How does one, right? Because you want to heal this division. Let's start.
You should have him watch the one I did with Ray DeForest, he's a drag queen, but not a transgender. But yeah, he knows all the stats on that. And by the way, transgender people do not do that. Go ahead.
So let's look at what you just suggested. I know you're being lighthearted and I adore you, right? Because you're saying what most people think and say and do. So if the tables were turned and he wanted me to see his side of it, which is totally wrong, okay? But if he wanted me to see his side of it and he did what you just suggested, look at Fox News, put it in my face. Like, because you said, let's put the transgender episode in his face, let him see it. Well, if he put Fox News in your face, how would you feel about that?
Oh, I get physically ill after about 4 or 5 minutes of watching Fox, and I do try to do so at various times, but I can't. I have a visceral reaction to certain people. I can't.
You can watch for up to 4 minutes. That's amazing.
I've had to work up to it. I had to work up. It's, 30 seconds here, 30 seconds, add on, layer on, that sort of stuff.
So again, we're looking at
making fun of your friend. Go ahead.
If we're taking the strategy, the long game, the smart strategy, when we tried on the spitball of, okay, well, let's put the transgender episode in his face. Well, that's the same as my dad putting Fox News in your face. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. That's not going to help us get to the next place. Right? Okay. So let's try again. We're sitting there. Dad says the transgenders in the bathrooms raped. Believes it, scared to death of it. Okay. How do we hold space for change? What might we consider as a different, new, evolved communication? Because when we can start to tweak this, then exponentially the whole world begins to learn, like the butterfly flapping the wings in Africa.
Hey, I have a question. Your dad's in West Orange or near there. I have a condo in West Orange. I know some transgendered people. Maybe he would have lunch with us at the Chit Chat Diner.
I like where you're going with this now.
I'm not joking. They could have a conversation. You and me, my friend Janice, and your dad.
So now
those are the kinds of conversations that need to be had, because on the constant 24/7 Fox News watchers and even the constant MSNBC watchers, although I do think Fox has been proven to, clearly there are lawsuits to prove it, but
it's not even equal. Yeah, no, I get
blatant. Yeah, you can't even compare them. And yeah, you can't. That being said, those are the kinds of conversations that need to be had.
Understood. But now let's flip it, right? We want to see the other side. That's the equivalent of my dad saying, no, you female lesbian
That's not
leftist
what I'm saying, though. With
need
regard
to
to
come to my country club and talk to my white male CEO 80-year-old friends.
Oh,
That's the equivalent. That's
been
the
there,
equivalent.
done that. Yeah, no, I know.
It doesn't work. It still doesn't work. Do you know that he actually said to me, this Black Lives Matter thing, it's a whole bunch of hooey. And I know it for sure because I was walking with my friends around the circle and they all said the same thing, that it's hooey. And I'm like, your 80-year-old white male CEO friends decided that Black Lives Matter isn't a real thing?
You know,
Okay.
one of the worst comments that I heard on numerous occasions about BLM and from a couple of my family members. Well, white lives matter too. Duh. But can we do the history on what the persecution for these people has been? And so therefore the Black Lives Matter movement means something. Yes, your white life matters too, but not more than a Black life.
Tracy, I love that you mentioned this.
Okay.
I read what I find to be the most powerful and profound explanation for the Black Lives Matter versus white or all lives matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was posted on Facebook by a friend of mine who happens to be a Republican in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what he posted, and I loved it. He said, to respond to Black Lives Matter with all lives matter is like somebody coming to you and saying, my dad just died. And you responding with, everybody's dad dies.
Exactly.
To me, that was I get goosebumps even saying it.
It's incredibly powerful. Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a moment. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, give me a moment. Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And that's a wonderful, example of that. It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. I think there's a place for us, like the song. We'll sing it together at some point.
Do you sing?
Of course. I used to do musicals all the time. That's what I did mostly in my theater days with regard to my theater days. I love talking to you, and I think that we have so many avenues. I'd also like to bring Kate in at some point with you, if you would do that.
I'd love to meet Kate. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think that it would be delicious, and I think that you just, I just think you're wonderful, and you know that. I miss you. And any final thoughts on this before we close out a little bit?
Tracy, you have always been 100% heart. You have always been successful. You follow your conscience authentically. Your energy is powerful. Mm-hmm. You glow from the inside out. And I already know that this baby podcast of yours that's already changed its name.
You had to, yeah.
Is already successful, because if it did nothing other than allow the space for you and for Kate and for a trickling of guests to bask in a space of exploring compassion, bask in a space of allowing the abundance of heart and words to flow in new and evolved ways. You've heard Abraham Hicks say 1,000 times that one person who's truly aligned is more powerful than millions who are not.
Absolutely.
So stay with the one relationship that matters the most, and then everything around it changes, which is your relationship with yourself, your inner being, and your alignment. And you just keep glowing that light, and that's enough.
And that is one of the three, as I think I mentioned earlier, of your incredibly brilliant audio, your podcast on your website, which I recommend everybody check out, about the relationship with oneself and how we approach the world with that in mind. And that my dear Sandy, is why I slept like a baby last night. I kid you not. I can't, I'm looking forward to what I'm going to listen to tonight. I'm serious. It's amazing. I used to smoke, but I quit many years ago. But I think that, by the way, your quit smoking stuff is brilliant. I think it's,
Oh my God, thank you. Listen, the smoking did you well because it got you just to the point of this sexy, smoky voice. And
yeah, we were making a lot of money off that voice, right?
we all used to, before auditions, we would cough to sound like
Exactly. So that we could like one up sexy each other or whatever. No, that was
when
that was a little exorcism.
When I've done impressions of you,
Oh.
it's because I have stories that have changed my life that came from you. And when I get into the Tracy, I'm like, and then she leans over, whispers in my ear, and she's like, babe.
I did. Well, how there's a little crush going on there. So it was like,
wait, which way? Which way? I think it's mutual.
it was mutual. It was definitely mutual. I'm gonna have to cut this prior to this. People are gonna be like, I don't care about your relationships in the past.
Oh no, I think when two lesbians who are fit and take care of themselves and exude a certain amount of I love connecting with people, I think nobody doesn't want to see that.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you on that. Yeah. So